This is Colm McGuigan for IFLTV. Delighted to be joined by Frank Warren in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Frank, I must say this is becoming like a second home for you. How many times have you been here in 2024?
I know, it's unbelievable. I love it. I love it obviously because of the fights, but it's such a nice place. Nice to get a bit of sun. I mean, it's a bit cold at night this time of year, but it's lovely to get a bit of sun when we compare what's going on back home. But the people are lovely. It's just a lovely place to be in, and we all enjoy it. Everybody comes out and enjoys it. It's an eye opener for them, and more importantly, Riyadh season's been so great for our sport.
Where does this fight rank amongst Frank Warren's fights that you've promoted throughout your Hall of Fame career?
It's probably one of the most important. It's the rematch. Can Tyson do it? Can Tyson beat, according to most of the press, the greatest heavyweight of his generation of the 21st century? And Tyson does that, then he replaces him and becomes that. Last time the fight was a split decision. There was nothing in it. I think this one's going to be a fight that will not go the distance. I think these guys have shared the ring, as I've said to you, I think, in doing interviews. They've learned a lot about each other, their strengths and weaknesses, what they need to do in the rematch, what they've got to try and exploit the other guy's weaknesses. Can they do it? And we're going to find out on Saturday in a fight that's going to be something special. It will not go the distance, this fight.
I want to ask you something that's never happened to me with an elite level fighter. I mean, like at the highest level. And Alexander Usyk said to me in an interview, he doesn't want to tell me too much because he feels like Tyson Fury will be watching them interviews. What do you make of that comment from Alexander?
Look, any fighter who says what he's going to do before a fight, I would say 90% of the time, well, they just don't do it, do they? You'll find out on the night. That's the normal thing, isn't it? A couple of them say, I'm going to knock somebody out there, make predictions. Fighters have got to be adaptable, and I think sometimes Usyk's a very smart guy. He's very media savvy. Him and his team, they're very they're good professionals. Know what they have to do, what to say, and they'll they're saving. He's saving it all for the night. Same as Tyson. Tyson's cut back on everything for this. He's cut back on the amount of people in his team. He's not speaking to people. He's not taking phone calls from family. He's absolutely focused on this fight. That's all he's interested in. He doesn't want to know about any problems outside business problems, family, unless they're massively important family issues. That's where he's at. The last fight, and it's not an excuse because it'd be a terrible way to say, to use it as an excuse. His wife, Paris, had a miscarriage, and I don't care who you are. If that don't affect you, there's something. That's a terrible thing. His wife is normally at every fight. She's in the dressing room. She wasn't there. He had that cut in training, and very quickly that fight was remade. Was put back together again. Date was rescheduled, and he trained. Went ahead training. Weren't ideal preparation, and it's not an excuse. And I'm not saying it. I'm just telling you the background. This time round, nothing. He's focused. It's what the best man will win. If Usyk wins on Saturday night, the best man wins, and that's it. Tyson wins, the best man wins. I believe Tyson will win, the best man wins. But that's the truth of what happened, what's going on, and these guys have had lots of problems outside the ring in their life. Both of them. They're both very noble people. They're great exponents of the art of boxing. They're not just crash bang wallet merchants. They're proper boxing guys. They've boxed all their lives at various levels, at top level. They're warriors. They've shown that in the last fight. It's the best heavyweight fight of the 21st century. You've got two warriors who've prepared now, having shared an epic moment in the ring together, 12 hard-fought rounds. They're prepared to face up to each other again. You will get something extra special from these two.
We'll speak about Tyson in a second. I want to ask you about something that Alexander said in that interview with me as well. He said,
Who's this?
Alexander, he said that he's going to knock Tyson Fury out. Now, I want to ask you, Frank, in that 9th round, he landed 9 to 10 punches on Tyson and couldn't take him out at that point. Do you believe he won't have it in him to take Tyson out when we've seen those 10 punches land clean on Tyson?
No, I think look, he's a caper, and it's how you catch him. Tyson's has great recuperative powers. And he showed that in the 10th and 11th round, and he won the 12th round. He was the fresher fighter at the end of the fight. If you watch it, that's a fact. You know, that's not me being. I am biased, but that's not being biased. 3 judges gave him the last round, and anybody who watched that fight see the last round that he was the fresher fighter. Can he knock him out? These big guys landing big bombs on each other. Of course they can knock each other out. There's no doubt about that. Will he knock him out? I don't think so. I think it's going to be the other way around.
Johnny Nelson said in an interview with me yesterday that he believes that fight should have been stopped and it was a disgrace that it wasn't stopped. What do you make of those comments?
I think it's a disgraceful comment that he made. Why should it have been? He got a standing 8 count. Referee's a great referee in Mark Nelson. There was nothing wrong with that. And the next round, Tyson didn't get stopped, did he? If he'd have been stopped, if he'd have come out in the next round and got stopped, maybe he said, why didn't you stop it in the 9th round? He didn't. He came out in the 9th round and was there with him, slipping still, moving. Same thing in the 10th round and won the 12th round. Johnny Nelson's a prick sometimes. That's it. You know, he says things for, I don't know what it is. He's like, when has he ever said anything good about Tyson? If he was boxing on Sky TV, I know it's on pay-per-view, but if he was a Sky TV fighter, he'd be the greatest fighter in the world. The same as he used to harp on and say what a great fighter AJ was, till he went to DAZN. And then suddenly he became a nothing fighter. That's John. He goes he blows where the wind goes. What suits him, that's what he says.
Tyson said yesterday to the national press that he hasn't spoke to his wife in 3 months, and you touched on it. Is that normal, Frank?
Well, I suppose sometimes you might not want to speak to your wife.
When I asked Francis this yesterday,
spoke to me for 3 months. Look, he's focused. He doesn't want any distractions. That's his mindset. And if that's how it is, that's the business he's in. He's in the business of war, of boxing, of putting his physical well-being, his mental well-being on the line in front of everybody, bearing his soul to everybody, as is the other guy. And this is the preparation he feels he needs. His wife, they're a team. They're like that. The pair of them, they're like that. They've got a tight family. That's how it is. And if that works for him, it works for him in this particular instance. And you know, I'm not going to. Who am I to? He's the guy getting in the ring. If that's how it is, that's how it is. And you know, I've hardly spoken with him. Same thing.
What have those conversations been like that you have spoke to him? Do you see a difference in Tyson Fury?
Yeah, I do. I see him so mentally focused for this fight. And seeing him yesterday, he looks in the money physically. He's just really, really up for this in a big, big way. No doubt about it.
Obviously, as well, Frank, I need to ask you. It was such a close fight, but in your opinion, what does Tyson Fury need to do differently this time around?
No showboating, staying focused, doing what he did in the rounds from sort of certainly 3 to 7, just doing that, doing what he did, going out there boxing, putting him on the back foot, using all his physical attributes. That's what he needs to do. Calm corner, it'll be okay.
We seen the video call between Turkey and Alexander Usyk. It was hilarious, but Turkey seems so team Tyson. It's like almost a lot of people online are saying, how can he be so one-sided? What do you make of that?
Sorry, say that again.
The Turkey's so one-sided for Tyson because he was calling Usyk a rabbit. I think he called him a freak. I mean, like, what? Why is he? Is it because he wants a trilogy?
Yeah, simple as that.
But how does someone
like? Because the first fight was such a great fight, wasn't it? Yeah. And if it's another great fight, you'd want to see it again. That's him. He's a fan. He's a boxing fan. Whatever about anything. He's like all of us. In our hearts, we're fans. That's what we want to see is great fights. And that was a great fight.
I want to talk to you a little bit about the undercard. Obviously, Moses ITAUMA, one of your fighters that you have now at this point, he's moving quite fast. It's a big step up. Dempsey McCann is a step up for him. I interviewed Dempsey McCann, and I seen he made comments in another interview about the rematch clause. He said you're not confident in Moses, and he also said that this is a step too far too soon. What do you make of those comments?
Well, sometimes not sometimes. The reason I have rematch clause in a lot of my fights is, what happens if there is a clash of heads and there's a cut eye? And my guy's in front and it's past the stage where they go to the cards. You know what I mean? That's where we are. So for me, don't worry about my... If I wasn't confident in my guy, I wouldn't have made the fight.
No, and I agree with you. But what I'm
It's
saying,
not going to be no easy job because I know this guy's coming to fight and he's looking to get a mental edge. He's saying all this stuff. Get it, understand that, been there, done it, got the t-shirts and everything. But at the end of the day, once that bell goes, Moses is either going to do it or he ain't going to do it. I think he will. I think he's still a teenager. He's going in with a guy who's very, very competent, who went 12 rounds, or went into the 12th round with Hrgovic for a final eliminator for the world title. This kid's 19. That's where stepping him up against the guy who, in his last fight, fought as a final eliminator for the world title, against a fella who we see for the first 3 rounds in his fight against Daniel Dubois was giving him problems with the right hands that he was throwing. So he's in for a tough fight. But I think he wins it.
what do you make of Johnny Fisher and Dave Allen online? It's getting quite a bit of criticism because people are saying Dave Allen's kind of shot, and Dave Allen said in an interview with me he has no world title ambitions. He's a British level fighter who's actually refreshingly honest, and he said he believes that he can beat Johnny Fisher. What do you think?
Well, Johnny Fisher's British level at the moment, isn't he? What's his 12th fight? So that's what he is. And to beat Dave, he goes on from there. If he beats Dave, I think he'll beat Dave. But who knows? I mean, these big guys, anything can happen. One punch in the heavyweight division, your career just takes another direction. Everybody said that Daniel Dubois was washed up. Why? I don't know. I mean, fighting Usyk and he's washed up. Come on.
Do you want to make Moses ITAUMA and Johnny Fisher in the next 12 months, Frank?
I'd love to make that fight, yeah. Win or lose. Either of them.
I spoke to your son Francis yesterday, and I put to him, we watched Dillian White the other night. What about Moses ITAUMA, Dillian White? You like that one?
There's a lot of fights there for him to be made. And Dillian, first of all, to do that fight, we'd have to get the British Boxing Board of Control to agree to license it.
Moves me on to the next question. Obviously, Frank, I do need to ask. Dennis McCann, unfortunately, I don't want to say failed the test. There's an adverse finding. What's the situation there?
Situation is that there was an adverse finding. And he has to explain that away. He's got to get his B sample tested. And once he does that, that'll determine it. He had a urine sample come back positive. I understand the blood sample come back negative. So we'll see. And what will happen in due course, he'll appear before UCAD. The board have suspended him at the moment. He'll then have to go before UCAD and he'll have to justify their findings, justify in there what they found in there, how that got into his system, unless it was a tainted test. And the only way we find out it's tainted is once the B sample's tested.
So has he requested the B sample?
Yeah, and once the B sample's tested, we'll know that. That'll answer that question, and then after that, there'll be a hearing.
Was it sad for you to see that fight come off, because it was going to be an unbelievable fight between him and Peter McGill?
It's dead. It's gone. What's the point of thinking about it? It's over now.
Reese Edwards steps in on late notice. Do you like that? Reese Edwards steps in on late notice against Peter McGill. You like that fight?
Yeah, it's a good little fight. It's a good fight, and that's how it should be. McGrath trained really hard for the fight, and he's now got another handful.
Frank, there's been rumours that Froch is coming out this week. What do you make of that? Will you interview with Carl this week, or
Will I what?
Will you do an interview with him on his channel?
What do I need to do an interview with him for? I've no interest in Carl Froch. And why would he want to come out to a place where he's been so, and the things he said about their culture, about when people have a mark of respect, like hold your hand, and the comments he's made of them. I mean, why would he want to come out here if he feels that way? He's a hypocritical bastard.
There's been a lot of reconciliation in this sport over the past 24 months. If we sat here 2 years ago and I said to you how you and Eddie would be getting on now, you'd probably laugh at me.
Oh, by the way, Carl Froch, Joe Calzaghe is coming out here. You remember Joe, fella you dodged all those years. Right, carry on, next one.
Do you think that's an interesting little duo, Calzaghe and Froch, if they're both here?
Not now, is it? What's it mean? It doesn't mean anything now. Maybe, who knows? Maybe he might not want to come in the room if Joe's in there.
But in terms of reconciliation, I can speak to you and Eddie, it's great to see, obviously, in the sport. Do you ever see a stage where you and Carl Froch sit down and iron out all those differences? Because really, like it is, it's always just that hearsay, isn't it?
No, I've got no interest. I don't, as a person, I don't like, I've never heard anybody have such a downer on his fellow professionals. Going back to the Amir Khan days, when Amir had just turned pro, the stuff he said, I didn't like all that. I've never promoted him. I've never been involved with him, so I have no history with him as working together or whatever. So, he's people he worked with. Was it Nick Hennessy, who done a great job for him, and Eddie. They're where he should have his affinity with him. I don't know if he has or he hasn't. That's certainly hasn't with me, that's for sure. And I'm not particularly interested in Carl Froch. It's a total non-story.
Frank, I want to ask about Daniel Dubois. Obviously, massive fight coming up against Joseph Parker. How prepared is Daniel for this fight, and do you believe that this is the real takeoff for Daniel Dubois in 2025? He can really solidify himself.
He'll be out here this week. He's got to be prepared. He's in with a very, very, very good fighter. He's a former fighter who's had some good wins. Former world champion, got a wealth of experience. He's got to be at his best. If he's not, he'll be in trouble. But he will be at his best. And I think he's the most devastating heavyweight on the planet at the moment.
I want to ask what you do with Daniel Dubois if he comes through the fight against Joseph Parker. Do you go down the route of an Usyk rematch if Usyk wins? Do you go down the route of the AJ rematch? What would you like?
I think the Usyk rematch would be a brilliant thing if he wins, but he's not going to win. Tyson's going to win, and then there'll be a trilogy. There'll be the third fight between them two. If neither of them or both of them retire.
Do you think there's a possibility they could retire after
I don't know what they're going to do. Depends on the outcome of the fight. You've got to watch the fight and see how it ends.
Do you think in 2025, Frank, we are able to see AJ Fury, something that the fans have wanted for so long, that probably is getting to the point where it's almost past its sell-by date?
We'll see. We'll see. We can see. Let's get this fight out of the way first of all.
Frank, before I let you go, I'm a Belfast man. I have to ask you this. Anthony Cacace, Nunes. Rumours it's going to be in Belfast. Eddie's kind of teased it and said, look, you need to speak to Frank Warren. You've got the keys to the city here, Frank. Is it going to happen?
There'll be an announcement fairly soon about Anto. Listen, we love him. He's with us, and there is a big fight there for him.
Eddie had to apologise to him because Eddie said he didn't have the balls to take that fight. Did you advise Anto to take that fight? Do you believe that he's got too much for Sugar Nunes?
I believe that he's got to make the fights that he's got to be in fights that he feels comfortable with, whatever. And you say Eddie apologised, that's the end of the story. How can anybody say that Anto's not got any balls? He's a fighter that spent most of his career on the road. And balls, look what he's done. How he's turned his career around, how he's finally dedicated himself 100% properly and showed the world what he's all about. He's a fucking good fighter.
How did you instill that into Anthony Cacace? Because like you say, there was a period, and Belfast boxing know this, that Anto kind of, and I'm not saying it's anyone's fault, but he kind of just fell off the wayside. He wasn't really involved. Well, how did you change that?
He fell out of a lot of fights. It wasn't me that changed it. He changed it himself, and his team changed it. I'm not going to take the credit for what he's done. You give me, Queensbury, George, my son, give us all credit for giving him the platform. Doing it is what he's done and his team have done. They're bloody good people. They've all worked very hard to get where there is. And his manager, Simon's a good manager.
Well, Frank, really appreciate your time here. Pleasure. Thank you, and we look forward to speaking again this week.
We certainly will.